Welcome back to Style of Play Football with myself, Theo. As always, thank you very much for coming back to the channel. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video, and also make sure you leave your comments below about the game tonight. England versus Slovenia, the last group stage game for England before they advance now, which we know due to the results yesterday, advance through to the knockout stages of the Euros. This is a game that some people are calling a nothing game. I don't see it like that. I see this as a really good opportunity for Gareth Southgate, a good opportunity for some of these players that haven't had a chance to show what they can do on the international stage, them the opportunity to go into a game like this against Slovenia, where they can actually show what they can do for Gareth Southgate, for the team, for the country, and play very well. And I'm going to get up to the lineup shortly, but one of the things I want to get into as part of this video is just looking at some of the two games before. The opening game was obviously really poor against Denmark, and then you look at the game against Serbia, which wasn't that much better. In fact, if anything, it got worse in that game a couple Sundays ago. So Gareth Southgate really has to get this squad playing the way he wants them to play, and it's also the time for the senior players in that team, the Harry Kanes, Kieran Trippier, even Trent, who's been he's been at finals before. He's played at the top of his game for England and for club. Those sort of players now, because we can't talk about Trent like he's a young player anymore. Yes, he's still relatively young in terms of his age, but what he's experienced, for under Klopp, under, Gareth Southgate in the Euros and the World Cup as well. Trent has to be one of those players that stands up and speaks up in the dressing room as well for me. And one of the alarming things that came out, and we didn't mention this on the podcast last week or this week, was around, the comments that came out from Harry Kane, some of the other comments that followed, some of the comments from Gareth Southgate, not being, not having an idea how to break down the three at the back against Serbia. And that is a worry for me, because if you're the manager and you're saying that out loud in public, that you're not sure how to get the best out of your team based on a tactical difference in another team, that's worrying. Because how are the players meant to understand and buy into what you're trying to do if you're not really sure at the top what's going on? And Steve Clark and all the other coaches, they have to talk to these players and get it right. They got to get it right with the players, because if the players are going out there and you're telling them one thing and they're not really understanding it, this is why we're watching boring football under Gareth Southgate with England, because the players are clearly not buying into whatever Gareth Southgate is telling them to do. They're not doing it. We spoke before last week about Trippier, about Phil Foden on the left side of the pitch, and how that's just nullified in terms of Kieran Trippier not being able to overlap fully, not being able to utilize the space that he can potentially run into. We find him with Trippier, he's trying to cut in every moment he gets with the ball. He wants to cut in on his right foot, which is natural, being a natural right-footed player. Phil Foden drifting into that midfield space as well. That should really be occupied by Jude Bellingham. Harry Kane also dropping into that space in the 10 as well. So there's so much confusion amongst the players, amongst the coaching staff. And this is where someone like Harry Kane has to step up and talk. The captain of the country has to step up and talk and say to Gareth, look, we don't understand what you're trying to get us to do over there. It ain't working. Let's try something else. He has the voice to do that as the captain. He has the option to do that as the captain. He has to go to Gareth Southgate and the coaching staff and say that this isn't working. What we're trying to do, none of us are buying into. We need a plan B. And as football players as well, at the top, you have to be able to be adaptable. You have to be able to adapt. They surely don't just work on that one formation. They must be working on back threes with 10 men, with 9 men. That's what you would expect at any club. At any club you do that. You work with different formations, you work with different styles of play, you work at different tactical situations that can happen throughout the game. So Gareth Southgate has to drill that into these players, and they have to buy into whatever he's trying to do. At the moment, the last 2 games, we haven't seen that. We were very, very, very lucky against Serbia. Very, very lucky. And the Denmark game, very, very lucky, to get a point out of it, the 1-1. 2 teams we should be respectfully beaten with ease. But With Gareth Southgate, you just don't know what he's going to do. Now, there is an early indication that Conor Gallagher will come into the midfield for tonight's game. Not really disappointed by that, but I'm also quite shocked. I mean, the comments after the Denmark game to say that you haven't got a like for like replacement for Calvin Phillips when you've got Adam Wharton and Kobe Mainoo sat on the bench. That's a red flag for me as a fan watching that and hearing the coach, the manager say that. It's a massive red flag when you've got two of the best players that have had really good seasons for club, for Crystal Palace and United, respectfully. You got to bring, you've selected them. You've selected them. You should be putting them in the team. And Conor Gallagher has had a really good season for Chelsea, but again, you've got to understand what are you bringing him in the team for? Is it just for the engine, for the legs, for the running, or is there an actual plan for him to be able to come into that midfield and make a difference? Because for me, Wharton would have been my most likely replacement for Trent. We're going to get onto the lineup in a minute, but there's other areas that Trent can occupy in the team, and we know that. We know what he's capable of. We know where his qualities lie. We know that this game really is the only time. Again, Gareth Southgate said after the Denmark game, that he's experimenting with Trent in the Euros, which I'm not a fan of. You've got your experienced players in there. You experiment with the team before the tournament. You don't do it during the tournament. But we know where Trent can play, and we know his strengths, and we know that he's got weaknesses like every other player in the team. But we have to go into this game with the mindset that we need to win it. We need to top the group. And I think we will. I think, it's going to be difficult because I think there's a lot of scrutiny that's come from outside, the negativity, so-called negativity from the press, from obviously pundits as well. And if I was a player, I'd like to think I would use that negative comments and energy, and I'd put 11 out of 10 on the pitch, 12 out of 10 on the pitch, because that's what you want to see from the players. You don't want to see them crying in their beds at night. I want to see them put on the top like they would for their club and play just as well as they would for their club, for their country. And that's what all it comes down to. Now, like I said before, Harry Kane, some of the more experienced players, Trent, I'm looking at him, Trippier, I'm looking at you, even maybe a Declan Rice, I'm looking at you lot. And you're looking at the players that are there for the first time, the Cole Palmers, Adam Whartons, Kobe Mainoo's, Mark Guehi. And I'm looking at those experienced players who've played at the top level for country and club at times to nurture some of these players. Mark Guehi seems to be the best player that we've got in the squad at the moment, which I'm not against, but he should not be the best player. Let's be honest. They've got Jude Bellingham in there, who's arguably Spain's best player last season. Harry Kane, Germany's best player last season. Phil Foden apparently is England's best player last season. So you've got three of the top best players apparently in Europe in the squad, and Mark Guehi is the best out of that bunch. So that tells you something about how Gareth Southgate is setting up this team for me personally. And I think we've got to change things around in the lineup, but we also have to change things tactically as well, and the way that we're playing, and whatever the manager's trying to get out of the team, they have to buy into it, because this game here tonight is going to be a game where you can do your little bit of an experiment. If you need to do that, swap a few things around in the lineup. But when you get into that knockout stage, you haven't got another game to come back into, or another game to you've got to, these games are going to be coming thick and fast. Tournament football isn't the league. You haven't got time to tweak and wait and see and hopefully drop a point there. And you got to win every game. You just got to win every game. And this is the start of the end. If we can't win tonight, and then we go into that knockout and we get knocked out the first round of the knockouts, it'll be all for nothing tonight, or the whole tournament will be for nothing. So let's get to the lineup. Let's go to the lineup. And you'll see that I've stuck with Jordan Pickford, who obviously is the first choice for us in goal. I have put Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back. Now, the rationale behind that is simple. I think he deserves a chance in his natural position where he's been playing pretty much most of his season for Liverpool. And yes, he does come into that inverted space as he's done for Liverpool and for Jurgen Klopp, but they play different. And the way that they set up is different. And they have the defenders and the midfield to do that. So I would put Trent back at right back where I think he needs to be. I think Kyle Walker, I said on the podcast last week, if Kyle Walker is going to be the be all and end all at right back going through to those knockout stages. Give him a rest. I mean, this is a game where you can potentially rest some of these players that you're going to potentially need going forward into the knockout stages as well. I've gone for John Stones and Mark Guehi. And one of the things that I don't think people have mentioned, and albeit I think their centre partnership with Guehi and Stones has been brilliant. But one of the things we haven't mentioned, and it's gone under the radar a little bit, is John Stones has actually missed a lot of football for Man City, but he's still pulling out a brilliant performance with Mark Guehi alongside him. They look like they've been playing together for years and years. So they're my two centre back partnership. I'm going to stick with them. Obviously, Kieran Trippier. I think Luke Shaw is in contention to be on the bench and to be potentially starting or come on as a sub for tonight's game. But I would stick with Kieran Trippier. Luke Shaw clearly is not fit enough to start the game. I think there was a comment made on one of the podcasts I was listening to earlier on last week, and apparently Luke Shaw, even when Trippier was injured in one of the games or looked like he was injured, Luke Shaw was still sat on the bench, not even warming up. So that tells you everything about how fit he is or unfit he is to start in the games. I've gone for Declan Rice in the same position that he's been in, albeit he's playing in a more defensive role. For Arsenal, he's been playing in a box-to-box, more of an 8, higher up the pitch. But I think we need to keep him where he is. And then that will then hopefully allow Jude Bellingham, who I've put alongside Conor Gallagher, to push a bit more forward. Because I want to see both of them pressing and pushing a bit more forward and linking up with the three at the front as well. So I've gone for Anthony Gordon, Harry Kane, and Cole Palmer. So there are some key changes in that front three. Obviously, that takes out Foden and Bukayo Saka. Both of them who've had brilliant seasons for them, but we're not talking about club football. We're talking about tournament, international football. I want to see Anthony Gordon and I want to see Cole Palmer in the team tonight. I want to see what they can both do. And if this is the only game they get to play for England in these Euros, then why not do it in a game where, yes, you need the 3 points. Yes, you should be beating Slovenia. And I think that front three can do that. And we'll be able to see and maybe look at the options in the knockout stages as well. I think it'd be really harsh on Gordon and really harsh, even more so for Cole Palmer not to even be given an opportunity to at least get some minutes and game time in a game where it is a nothing game, but it's also a game you want to win. And I think those three are capable at the front. And it might even give Harry Kane some more options going forward, which will stop him from dropping into that midfield space as well. I think Gordon and Palmer can do that and then supply him with the quality into the box that he needs. So I'm looking forward to hopefully the lineup being something like this. We know it's Gareth Southgate. We know he's not going to go for this. We know he's probably going to... I said it last week, I would not be surprised if Conor Gallagher is the only change in the team based on just how Gareth Southgate is and very sort of, we would be mindful not to change too much in his team, but he has to be risky. He has to take a plunge at trying to give some of these other players an opportunity, because we could have some of the best quality football sat on our bench with Anthony Gordon, Cole Palmer, Trent at right back, Conor Gallagher, maybe even Adam Wharton coming into that midfield. We could have some of the best quality sat on the bench, and we're not willing to risk using them and then go home early at the tournament, albeit for the sake of Bukayo Saka and Phil Foden playing on the left side of the pitch for me. So we have to be ruthless. Gareth Southgate has to be ruthless with his lineup tonight and give himself the opportunity to look at some of the other players on that bench and see whether they're the ones that he needs to bring into those knockout games as well. And even off the bench as well. I mean, we've seen Jared Bowen, we've seen Ollie Watkins come into the game. There's options off that bench. Ivan Toney, another one. He's got to use this. The whole reason you take that big of a squad is so you can swap and change and utilize the players in the best way possible. So we have to see, but I am going to go for a victory. I do think we'll win. I don't see any concerns or any problems, albeit that the game could be very boring, but I do see us getting the 3 points, top in the group, which will then give us a more clearer, safer option throughout the knockout stages going forward as well. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are with my lineup. Who would you go with? Who would you change out of the lineup? And also your score predictions. I'm going to go for a boring 1-0 because I do think that based on how Gareth Southgate potentially will set this team up, it will be a low scoring game. I can't see many chances coming from it. And we just need, defensively, we need to make sure we don't get caught out from the Slovenian team as well. But let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and also make sure you check out the audio version of the podcast as well. Until tomorrow, I'll be back with another video. Stay tuned for that one and enjoy the game when you get to it. Thanks for watching.